Hi, my name is Joseph Cucci, and I am doing a video essay for the Part 2 section of Assignment 4, Disabilities in the Media, and I chose to review the movie Rain Man. Rain Man tells the story of two brothers that are traveling from Cincinnati, Ohio to Los Angeles, California via car. The character Rain Man, he is depicted as being an autistic savant, and the other character, Charlie, his brother, has nothing, as in like he's just able-bodied. And Charlie is trying to get his brother across the country back to LA because he wants to get in charge of the estate bequeathed to his brother that he just found out existed like 20 minutes into the movie, so he can get conservatorship over his brother and have his trustee money. And while doing so, Charlie learns all about his brother and how he reacts to his environment, his schedules, and just learns how to interact with his brother with autism. The film is actually about 2 hours long, and we start to see that right away that Raymond is really into schedules. He has to do things at a certain time, and it has to be a certain way, and he's very particular about that. And it plays a huge role in the film because depending on if his schedule's broken or if something kind of like gets in the way of that, he starts to either have an outburst or he's forced to kind of like adapt to what his surroundings are. And it's pretty interesting to see because a lot of people online that I've seen, either in the video review that I saw, the blog post that I saw, the commenters, and two people that I actually asked online who didn't want to be talked about on here, but I just talked to them in private with autism, they generally said that the film was a pioneer when it came to opening up about autism and how it exists, people have it, and the film is basically like, these are the traits that people with autism could have. A lot of people have felt stigmatized by Raymond in the film because they had been compared to Raymond, and anytime someone has heard that they have autism, they've treated them differently and thought that they would basically behave like Raymond in Rain Man. It's kind of like a tongue twister because Rain Man, the same person, it's title, it's anyway. So as it goes on, a lot of people have started to say that it's a little bit dated, especially when it compares the functioning level. Back then, it was mostly like you were high functioning and low functioning autism. There wasn't really an understanding of the autistic spectrum. That is why nowadays we see a huge range of people diagnosed with autism because research into autism has expanded. In the late 80s, when the film came out, I believe 1988, there wasn't many autistic characters in media, or at least any openly autistic characters. And it was actually a relief for some people with autism to see some of their traits portrayed in a film such as this. And the people who created the film did really deep research into the autism community and spoke with people with autism. Unfortunately, the savant syndrome part, where most of the film revolves around Raymond being like really good at like math and such, but is unable to do a lot of other basic tasks like cook for himself or live independently and stuff like that. It turned out that the person it was based off of was actually may not have had autism and had a different disability where there was a chunk of their brain missing, and it caused them to have savant syndrome capabilities. And I came from learning is that you can have savant syndrome but not necessarily be autistic, and you can have autism without the savant syndrome. And just like characters in Raymond seems to be a combination of a lot of traits that the people who made the film researched about, a combination of all these traits rolled into one character. We know that not just characters, but people in general, can live independent lives, and they may see one or two of Raymond's traits and none of the other things that he has, like the outbursts or the stuttering or the repeating. And after that, it yeah, pretty much that Raymond is just the summed up combination of just research leading up to the film and what a person with autism may experience. There was a really good blog post that I read on it where I believe the one by Kadem, he described it as having some exaggerations and overgeneralization, like the savant part. Like if a person with autism has savant syndrome, chances are they're not going to like guess like, oh, all the toothpicks fell on the ground. They're going to understand immediately what the number of toothpicks fell on the ground was because they memorized the pack that was on there. Or they're going to memorize that the square root of a number down to several decimals, maybe the first two decimals, but not that extreme. And that's where like the strengths and the weaknesses come into the film, where it's like it's respectfully done portrayal of those with autism, but it's not it's out of date where it comes to the fact where it's like, you know, how he's considered high functioning when he seems to have more lower functioning autism, or perhaps maybe even another type of mental impairment or disability alongside of savant syndrome. There are some, you know, just the care portion of it in the beginning of the film where it shows the institution where Raymond was originally at and where he ultimately kind of ends up at the end of the film. He is just there's actual actors and actresses, or I guess they're more like cameos because there's only one who has a speaking line, who there were all these disabled cameo people, or people, I'm sorry, I'm phrasing that really wrong, but I meant to say that there's a lot of people with disabilities in the institution that are actually people with disabilities. I believe one character who had a cameo was someone with Down syndrome who told Charlie Babbitt, which is the one played by Tom Cruise, to move aside because he was trying to get to the other side of the room. But it was actually nice seeing like a speaking role in the 80s for a character with Down syndrome, or just all the other characters in the film being portrayed in like a really nicer light. Like they weren't the only character that was mean outright to Raymond were a couple like truck drivers, or like Charlie himself. Charlie was awful to Raymond throughout the film, but he began to understand him, and by the end, Charlie actually advocates that Raymond shouldn't be just institutionalized. Like he should be able to go on trips because Raymond is capable of going places. I mean, Charlie took Raymond to Vegas at one point, and Raymond actually ended up getting a date. I mean, the date didn't show up because it turned out to be a little bit of a setup because they caught Charlie making Raymond count cards for them in the casino. But he ends up dancing with Charlie's on and off girlfriend in the film, Susanna, and they end up kissing consensually, which it also shows that autistic people, or people with autism, can fall in love. Like they're able to be human. They can dance. They can learn to dance. They can like dancing. They can like falling in love. They can do a lot more than what probably was expected of a lot of them outside the film during that time period. And if I could change one portion about the film, especially, it would still be that designation of, oh, he's high functioning autistic savant. And then they said, oh, well, lower functioning autistic savants, or autistic people, they can't speak or anything. I feel like they should have just either left that out or been a little bit more like, well, it's a spectrum. Like if he's considered this, then there's other, or like the exaggeration of the savant abilities. Like, he's basically, superhuman memorization, superhuman math skills, where a savant can have really good math skills, but it's just not, it's just not as realistic. And if I had to recommend it, I would say it's a good enough film to introduce people to learning about what they may encounter, as in traits in someone who has autism. But I would also keep in mind that it is dated. Like I have to put that point across, that it's a good portrayal for the time, but like I said, it's of the time. And that's pretty much sums up Raymond.